Welcome to WindowCast, the official podcast of Window+Door and the National Glass Association. I'm Laurie Cowin, editor of Window+Door. I'm here today with Ned Monroe, president and CEO of the Vinyl Institute, which represents the entire PVC and vinyl industry, as well as leading vinyl resin producers. Ned helps to create and execute the strategic focus of the Vinyl Institute to maximize its impact and value. I've heard Ned speak at various industry events throughout the past years, and I'm very happy to talk with him this afternoon about all things vinyl. Welcome, Ned.
Thank you very much for having me. Looking forward to talk about all things great in the vinyl window area.
Absolutely. There's a lot going on. Uh,
Absolutely.
could you start out today just by giving us a bit of a 30,000-foot view of the vinyl industry, especially as it relates to construction and fenestration in particular?
Great. Well, it's a great question, great way to kick off the conversation. So at the Vinyl Institute, we represent the individual companies who manufacture PVC resin. So that is the chemical polyvinyl chloride. It's a powder, and we sell that chemical, that powder, PVC, into companies that manufacture different products. So the resin goes into vinyl flooring, vinyl siding, vinyl roofing, vinyl record albums. About 50% is used in pipes, but one of our best categories that we have out there is vinyl windows, primarily residential vinyl windows. It's the industry's pretty big. We actually sell about 15 billion pounds of PVC resin every year. We use about 10 billion pounds every year domestically, and we export about 5 billion. So about 50% goes into PVC pipes, drinking water, sewer pipes. But you guys are a major category. It's about 7% of our PVC resin that we use in the U.S. goes into the window industry. So I'm not great at math, but well over 1 billion pounds a year is going into windows, which is pretty remarkable, important category for us. And as you know, in the industry, it's a great high quality product that the market is growing. The great innovations with the colors and the performance, all that's really a great category.
Mhm. There's so much happening, and one of the cool things that I've been hearing from different companies is that whereas vinyl windows used to be considered kind of an entry-level window or a production window, a lot of higher end and luxury homes are starting to adopt the material too, which really reflects its versatility.
It's it is you're absolutely accurate. All the people in fenestration and glazing, very creative, very innovative. The things that you guys do really make the interior and exterior of our homes and commercial buildings really beautiful and spectacular. And so you couldn't be in the window business without being innovative and cutting edge and always learning for continuous improvement. We're really proud of what's going on in the window side. If you look at the renovation space, you look at, you drive through the neighborhoods now and is switching out to the black, really crisp looking black color on the windows. It's a modern, slick use, but a big chunk of it is the right price point. It's a very, very good consumer friendly product. It's also the right price point because it lasts so long. It's a very durable product with high quality manufacturing here in the U.S. That allows for a good thermal properties. It seals really tight. It doesn't degrade. It doesn't rot. You could put the coloring in the windows, so it doesn't require a lot of painting. In vinyl, our resin, it's about 75% of all of our PVC goes into construction. It's wiring, it's roofing, flooring, siding. And a lot of that is because it's very durable. It lasts a long time. And it's the right property for the uses that you guys in the window, siding, doors, are all using it for. Really, really happy to be to be on your podcast because it is such a great, exciting product and category.
Sure. Now, the Vinyl Institute is really on top of everything that's happening on the regulatory and landscape industry. Can you share what some of the Institute's goals and priorities are for this year?
Sure. So we do a strategic plan. It's a 4-year strategic plan. We're at year two and a half of our 4-year plan. Our big concerns are advocate, ensuring that we're up there advocating to make sure that our products comply with regulatory issues, that we're working with both federal, state issues. We have a big program on sustainability and ensuring that our products have a more sustainable footprint, lower carbon, very critical to us. Our consumers want it, our customers want it. It's obviously the right thing to do. We also have a big program around convening. How do we convene the industry to anticipate the concerns, anticipate issues that might be emerging? And we also have a lot of programs to make sure that we're anticipating what are the needs of the industry and our customers. So probably if you had to say right now, our biggest one is advocacy. What are we doing at the federal level? Today, a lot of it, is trade and tariffs, import duties. What are we doing with the additives and the chemicals that we need to use for our converters? What are the tariffs we're paying? Canada, Mexico, but also Asia, any of those chemicals that are coming in, very important. I would also say we pay a lot of attention to tax issues. A lot of our members were very happy when the president was elected because he was putting a real focus on manufacturing and how do we accelerate manufacturing in the U.S. and tax advantages, for example, accelerated depreciation. How do you accelerate the depreciation of tools and equipment and vehicles, your extruders? Very important. How do you deal with capital improvements? So a lot of things around tax that I think might be able to offset any concerns that people have about the tariffs that are going. So short answer, advocacy. How do we protect and advance the industry?
Okay. Now, speaking of protecting and advancing the industry, some of the data that we get with Window and Door through our industry pulse survey and our top manufacturer survey, it regularly tells us that vinyl is just a huge part of the industry. Like, for example, the top manufacturer survey, which is coming up very soon, we noted that 20% of respondents had vinyl windows and another 20% had vinyl doors as the primary products they manufacture. The next most popular category, material, had only 9%. So more than double other materials. But how can manufacturers themselves continue to champion the material and work alongside the Vinyl Institute on some of your advocacy efforts?
Great question. The short answer is really work through our partners. So we're a little upstream since we're providing the resin, but the FGIA, Fenestration and Glazing Institute, Association International, International Association, AMA, the old AMA, FGI, really work with those folks. Really a fantastic organization, or any other organization, association that's getting the member companies together to talk about innovations and codes and standards. So definitely join and work through your organizations. The second thing is you can sign up on our newsletter. The quick answer would be, why don't you join us and pay dues from, we're fine. We're not really recruiting a lot more members. We'd welcome folks. But our association is primarily for upstream, the chemical folks. But we do have a free newsletter, and you can sign up at our website, vinylinfo.org. The other thing I would suggest is you check us out on the Vinyl Sustainability Council. As I said, a big priority of ours is sustainability. And we really would welcome folks to join us on the journey. And wherever you are on that sustainability path as a company, we can help you. We have companies that are very far along in the process, and they help craft kind of our strategy of where we're going, how do we get the next phase. And we have companies that are just starting. They're just starting to talk about how do you even measure the energy use or the water use. And how do you move to different additives to make those additives more sustainable? So we can help you on the Vinyl Sustainability Council as well. But just that's the start. Follow our newsletter, and there's, if you subscribe, you'll get an occasional ask to write your members of Congress. And that'll be the first way for you to get involved in kind of the regulatory legislative process and advocacy that we're engaged in.
Thank you. Now, speaking of sustainability and energy efficiency, post-consumer recycling is a part of that. And from what I understand, Europe has a pretty robust post-consumer recycling infrastructure in place, but the US is more in its infancy there. Can you talk about some of the recycling initiatives going on and how that's moving forward?
I sure can. It is a priority, and you're correct. Europe is a little further ahead of us in PVC recycling, and a little bit more of that is because the government was very involved, and there were some subsidies and some taxes and things on the industry that allowed them to move a little quicker. We're catching up fast, and we're very involved in what's going on. I mean, let me just counter the first myth. I do this whenever I talk to folks. There are a lot of people think PVC cannot be recycled, which is not true. We recycle in the United States. We recycle over 1.1 billion pounds of PVC every single year in the U.S. and Canada. U.S. and Canada every year, 1.1 billion pounds. Now, a lot of that is pre-consumer, so it's post-industrial. So it might be the regrinds. If you have one of your extruders, your window or door manufacturers, the color is off or doesn't meet specs, rather than landfill it, they will take that product back, regrind it very easily, and put it right back into the production. And or they might have a PVC wrap around the pallet, might be some packaging. So that we use about 1.1 billion pounds of all in of recycling. Of that, about 140 million pounds is post-consumer. Doesn't sound like a lot, but it is. We're actually making some progress on that. Part of the problem is our products, as you guys know, it lasts a long time. You know, windows and siding and doors, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 years lifespan. PVC pipes, it's 100 years plus. And so that item is not going to go back into the recycling stream as quickly. But we're growing our post-consumer recycling. We have a project at the Vinyl Institute where we're actually donating $1 million a year specifically to growing post-consumer recycling. And I'll pitch something really important to us, and that is that the Vinyl Siding Institute, now PEPA, Polymeric Exterior Siding or Products Association, PEPA, they actually have bins at distribution sites where they're collecting the used vinyl siding and pipes and windows. So if somebody is going to a distributor to pick up products, they can take the old tear-offs, they can take the doors, they can take the windows, and there's a bin there waiting to collect so it can be recycled. And think about it, if you're an installer, you don't want to have to take a side trip to the dump and pay the tipping fees to landfill the old windows and doors. If you take it back to the distributor where we have those bins, that'll go reground right back into new vinyl products. Our goal is to grow our post-consumer to about 165 million pounds by the end of this year. It's so far is going pretty well. I was on a call this afternoon, and they actually, this project of the siding folks anticipate having 5 million pounds of siding and windows and pipes, so construction, coming back into those bins. So it was a couple of years ago, it was in the hundreds of thousands. They got to 3 million pounds last year, and this year they're hoping to get to 5 million pounds of post-consumer, primarily siding. So we're getting there, we're growing, and we're really committed to it. And I get FGIA is committed to it. We've got a grant going to them to help kickstart some of the collection process, I guess, of that post-consumer product. Just a little aside for the folks that are into the industry, it's a little tougher to put windows back into window recycling or siding back into siding. What happens is it's collected, it goes to a recycler, and then it's in the open market, and whoever's paying the biggest amount is actually gets to buy that, recycle it, that regrind. I'm not 100% sure where it's going. It's a little bit of confidential business information, but it looks to me from the outside that a lot of the siding right now is going into decking, and which is really fantastic. But As we kickstart this, hopefully we'll be at the point where we get siding into siding and windows into window, doors into doors. But it is a priority, and our guys are putting $1 million a year into it so far to grow specifically post-consumer recycling.
That's a wonderful commitment. How does your Vantage Vinyl certification play into everything?
Well, it's a fantastic program. So the Vantage Vinyl program is a process where a company can answer questionnaires, provide data, and it will show where they are on their sustainability journey. It's generally involved in a couple different categories. So it's energy usage and recycling commitments, and then how are you dealing with your workforce? And so I want to say it's about 25 or 30 different data points that companies provide to us to show where they are on their sustainability journey. We have a third-party group that comes in and verifies the data that you're submitted. And the reason it's so important is if you are having to provide sustainability information to your customers are saying, what is, for example, your scope 3 or scope 2 energy use, you can go back to your supply chain. And if you use Vantage Vinyl certified or verified companies, you'll be able to look back and show that you're working in your whole supply chain with verified companies with better energy, lower carbon footprints. The four major resin manufacturers, PVC resin manufacturers, are all verified. We have a life cycle assessment of resin that just came out recently, and it's gotten back, reduced the carbon footprint about 15%. And so the Vantage Vinyl program allows you to, one, improve your sustainability path as you're moving forward. We help train folks and educate folks, help get third-party verification. And the end result is, in addition to becoming a more sustainable company, you can also use the data as you talk to your consumers and also your supply chain. We have resin manufacturers, we have additive manufacturers, we have extruders, converters. So we've got the whole supply chain now in the process. And we'd welcome folks. Vantage Vinyl is a great program and growing every year.
Great. You mentioned earlier some of the work that the Fenestration and Glazing Industry Alliance does. And when you spoke at its conference in February, I have notes that you touched on the Toxic Substance Control Act and the Vinyl Chloride Industry Alliance. And back in February, the comments were due to the EPA by March 8th. What's the update here? What's going on?
Right. So as background, the United States Environmental Protection Agency has a program called TSCA, Toxic Substances Control Act. It's been around for decades. And basically, the EPA is looking at chemicals to ensure that they're safely managed to reduce risk and harm to the workforce and customers and environment. And it was updated a few years ago, and they're going through the process. Every year, they select another 10 substances, another 10 chemicals that they review, and they look at science, they look at data, and if there's not data, they order tests, and they actually go out and test the substances, dermal absorption test and inhalation test, to make sure that the substances are safely managed. We are currently at the Vinyl Institute we have 5 different consortia working with the EPA on regulations of a number of chemicals that are in the process. The one that is most in the news is vinyl chloride. Vinyl chloride has been on the list for quite a while, maybe a decade, 12 years, that we knew it was going to be in the queue, it was going to be in the line, and it's now in the process. It's an roughly 8-year review process. The latest result is that it is technically, legally, it's now in the process. And they have released a draft scoping document. So basically, what are we going to study? The EPA said, this is what we're going to look at. And we expect to have the scoping document out. Initially, they were saying this summer, but I probably think maybe fourth quarter we'll get a scoping document. And then once we get that, then we'll start actually looking with the EPA on data and testing and managing. We're pretty comfortable with our partnership with the Environmental Protection Agency. We've worked with the OSHA and other government regulators since the 1970s on safe management of vinyl chloride. And so we're pretty comfortable that we'll continue the partnership. And if they continue to apply by the science, look at the data, that we're going to continue to have a pretty robust but unexpected TSCA evaluation. And our products will, if there was to be something, there might be some engineering changes at our facility. For example, we might have to change the dryer temperatures or some things as we manufacture, but it's a relatively routine thing. I think, I think sometimes our opponents, metal pipes don't like plastic pipes, and sometimes I think the other product categories might inflame some of the rhetoric to get bigger headlines. But 8-year process. The next thing will be the scoping document will come out of the EPA this summer, third, fourth quarter this year. And it'll continue for, I think we're probably 2 years in, so another 5-6 years on this.
So, in our last couple minutes, is there anything else that you wanted to bring up? I've been leading a lot of the conversation, but you're the one on the front lines of what's happening and what the industry should be aware of.
Well, we're based here in Washington, D.C. Love us or hate us. Our office is actually about a block away from the White House. We're at 1700 Pennsylvania Avenue. So about a block away. On our mind today is and I hadn't thought about this question, but on my mind today is what are we doing on the economy? And what is the economic impact of the current economy? What is that doing on our housing market? I'm very concerned about the high interest rates that perhaps are locking people in, not able to move, relocate. I'm nervous about the consumer confidence. People might be holding onto their cash a little bit longer. Again, that's hard for the remodeling industry. And so big picture, macro, I think we've got to have something that gooses the economy and gets people buying or renovating again. There's been a lot of construction in warehousing and commercial spaces, but we really have to get the housing starts going again. We've got to actually start the construction and start more renovation. And I think my opinion is once we get some economic certainty, once we get through maybe some of the tariff ups and down and tariffs, maybe once the Senate and the House approve the final reconciliation budget bill, we'll get some real tax reform. We will get some real certainty on regulation. And at that point, I think when we get certainty and when we get some legislation through, I think the economy will calm down and I think people will move. And I think that will help our housing market. But, your audience, I'm sure, they're looking every day what's going on with housing permits and starts. We look at it the same way. And what we're trying to do is figure out what we can we do, reduce regulatory burden. So if you're going to start construction, you can do it quicker. What can we do to improve the tax structure, what's going on taxes to kind of incentivize investments? And then what can we do with the administration and Congress to really advance domestic manufacturing? All of those things should help us get over the any problems that we have. I don't see a recession on the horizon, but I think we've got to be careful that we continue to have GDP growth. And if we get GDP growth better than 1, 2, 3%, wow, that'll really be great for the industry, which is exactly what we all need right now.
Sure. That's definitely something everyone is keeping a close eye on.
Yes.
Well, Ned, thank you so much for your time today and joining us on Windowcast. It was great talking with you and learning more about vinyl.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, you're most welcome. Enjoy your day.
Bye-bye.
Okay.